Awesome. Okay, so this panel is definitely not about me. So can I please invite the three panelists, the three leadership panelists, Dr. Benjamin, Arya, and Danny, to come to the stage. They will be introducing themselves because as leaders, I think one of the most important parts of our leadership is to be autonomous and to lead by our own example. So come up here. It's all about the three of you. Let's get this conversation about leadership starting. Okay, so you all know that our session is about students from visionaries to leadership and how to build leadership incubators. And I have a few questions that I've prepared for the panelists, and I've changed all of them.
Hello.
Without letting them know.
Hello.
So I think that's very, very exciting. But before we get into that, I'm going to ask each and every one of you, Arya, if you can start, just to introduce yourself and give the audience a little bit of an idea of who you are and what work you are doing.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Arya Chitra from Nikon Middleeast. As all of you know, we are a camera company, but then we have a beautiful education program called Nikon School. And recently, I think 10 years ago, we started a program called Nikon School for Youth and Kids. What we do in the region is we empower students with the technical knowledge as well as the creative skills in the schools. We collaborate with schools and universities, creating Nikon rooms for content creation. So our program teaches a child of what a camera is about on a very technical level. And we go as young as pre-nursery students as well, and as high as the university students. I believe what photography and filmmaking teaches a child is more about being aware. I saw a lot of talk on mental awareness, mental health, and that's what I believe photography and filmmaking, on a very subtle note, teaches that to the students. We have worked with Ministry of Education, UAE. We are working with Ministry of Culture and Youth. We have partnered with Dubai Arts and Culture Authority, and that's what I believe, that everybody is noticing the need of the hour for photography as being an exercise for not only being a passionate photographer, more on educating them about awareness.
The social emotional skills, right? So photography really opens up that space for social emotional learning. That's really, really exciting. Dr. Benjamin.
It's such a pleasure to be here. All I can say is I will have to introduce myself in a different way, because typically when I'm having speeches, I don't talk about accomplishments, what I have done, but I guess you can call me Benjo for short, because my name is Benjamin Joel. And the concept of leadership emanates from an experience of having a different story. As I grew up as a child, because actually I was once a victim of child trauma, that's first. And then growing up, as I developed my leadership or self-leadership, I have experiences like, how can I say it, financing my own education, like especially when I was in college, and also selling different kinds of stuff to my classmates, to the people around me. So there are a lot of, should I say, lived experiences that are quite deep. And the way that I am utilizing my voice, particularly when I am encouraging the heart of the people around me and to the people that I'm working with, it always emanates from those kinds of experiences. That's why actually the session a while ago is a great prerequisite to this presentation, because I also believe in vulnerability. But if you are working in a workplace, it's very important for you to be or to have selective vulnerability.
Yeah, I agree I totally agree with what you're saying there. And I think what you're also highlighting as a leader and in your leadership journey is that the experiences are what really counts, not just what you learn or the knowledge, but you're really highlighting the experiential part. That's really awesome. Danny.
Hello. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and I thank Education 2.0 for hosting us. I think it's a fantastic event for the last 1.5 day. I'm the managing director of FreedomOne International Executive Coaching and Business Consulting. I started my company about 7 years ago after working in corporate for the past 19 years. I'm also multiple best-selling author of 2 personal growth books. One of the things that happened 7 years ago, which is why I embarked on this journey of coaching and helping people transform their lives, is that I didn't find any fulfillment in a very successful corporate career. It was great. You had all the trappings of success that people measure you by, the society measures you. However, this thing about fulfillment and deeper meaning was a little bit missing. And in search of that, basically, I started this company, FreedomOne International, where we help CEOs and business leaders double their results in business and life in 6 months or less. This is something we work very conscientiously with leaders, because once you can transform a leader, it impacts the entire organization. So you can create rapid, dramatic change in a short period of time when you speak to the right people, because they have the resources and the decision-making power to drive that change. So it's just been a fun, exciting journey. Thank you.
That's really cool. So I think we have 24 minutes to really get through some awesome, awesome questions. And I think, Danny, what I'm taking away from you there is that 7 years ago, there was something in your consciousness as a leader that shifted, which is really interesting. And I think that's becoming a really hot topic as well within the world of leadership. But just quickly, in 30 seconds each, why is leadership such a hot topic at the moment? Why is this happening? Arya, will we start with you?
I think we have created it to be a hot topic. I feel leadership is a skill. It's not a natural talent. It is something like you need to acquire it over the period of time. We have this pressure on that, are you a leader? Are you a born leader? But then that's not. That's what I think we have been working with students on that level to make it look like it's just a skill that you can acquire, like how you play football or how you play cricket for that matter, or any other skill that you want to acquire. And that's something I believe that we need to make it normal for the students to achieve it and not make it a hot topic. That's something I would like to really shout out to all the educators, that it's something that we need not pressurize the children to this hard, I think really strong words like leadership.
But that's interesting, because in education, everybody is creating better leaders. Schools are selling this as a commodity, and I'm curious about this. So I don't know, Dr. Benjo, what is your opinion on why is leadership becoming such a topic everywhere?
I think on the perspective of being a nurse, because we all know that nurses are one of the largest, if not the largest, member of the healthcare workforce. I mean, who will be the one to protect the rights of the nurses? Especially in this kind of situation wherein nurses are extremely challenged, particularly during the pandemic. A lot of nurses died just because of their intentionality to serve and doing the things that they love doing, which is taking care of other people. And aside from that, we are now in an era wherein the world is changing. And as you can see, and it's so nice to see also that I was able to connect with some people, and one of our advocacies in my organization, for example, is the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So, as you can see, the role of nurses can make a significant impact on these goals. Can you imagine how education, for example, in the domain of education, who would have thought that someone like me will develop for example, the first nurse educator track program in a master's level in Saudi Arabia?
So you're actually saying that it's not leadership, it's the personal development?
I think because I think it's necessary. I mean, in any field, in any industry, there needs to be a voice, and increasing the number of those voices collectively to advocate for change, right?
I like that. Danny?
Yeah, for me, I think I would agree that leadership is a skill you learn. It's not, you could be a born leader, yes, but it's a skill you learn. It's something you acquire, you cultivate within you. But when I look at leadership, I don't just look at leadership from a corporate perspective or becoming an entrepreneur. You need to be a leader of your own life. What's important is that you need, I would like to see myself as a conscious creator of my own life, because once you can create consciously the results that you want to see in your own life, you can automatically inspire, energize others to follow an empowering vision. So I think it all starts with you. You can cultivate that skill, but what's really important is that we are too quick to lead others and tell others what to do. Leadership starts with you. It always starts with you. And that's the energy then that permeates and resonates with other people as well. That makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
I would just like to add that when we talk about leadership, that's when we say the leadership triangle is goals, understanding others, and knowing yourself. That's what it is. You need to know yourself first, and that's how you can lead in any perspective, I believe. And that's what, in my experience, photography teaches that to the child, that you have to figure out yourself first, and then you go out and capture anything that you want.
I have another question for Danny before we jump to you, Benjamin, again. In your experience or in your field of work, and even in this topic, there are two words. One is visionaries and one is leadership. So what is the difference between visionaries and leadership?
Well, visionary leadership or transformational leadership are quite interchangeable, actually. I think probably what you're asking is, how would you see a visionary leadership from maybe other leaders that you look at, just normal leadership? Because in society, the way we describe leadership these days is someone who spent 20 years in a particular job, now it's his right to become the head of the department or the head of the company. They haven't really developed any leadership skill. They don't have emotional intelligence. They don't have real decision-making abilities. They can't manage themselves. How are they going to manage thousands of people? So that you can define as leadership, because that's by virtue of how many years you've spent. Conscious leadership or visionary leadership or even transformational leadership is very different. It's about how you energize and inspire people towards a common goal, and then how do you find elegant ways to positively, I wouldn't say change, I would say up-level the people and the thought process within an organization. I'm really not a big promoter for change, because when you say the word change, there's a defense mechanism that comes in people immediately. If I say change your clothes, you say why, right? So I like to use the word up-leveling, is because you are where you are and that's okay. Let's see how you can up-level. How can you upgrade yourself? So I kind of stay away from the word change, because nobody really, your subconscious doesn't like the word change.
Yeah, I think yesterday it was so interesting talking to you, and you were talking about consciousness, and at some point I said, but what about the unconscious? And you just said, well, that's also a level of consciousness, and I really love what you're saying now as well. I have a question for you, Arya. From your perspective, what are the biggest opportunities to develop leadership in education right now? Because we're talking about education. So do you see there are gaps, white spaces?
I've been working with Middleeast schools for more than 10 years now, and in my experience, I think they are filling that gap, because I see the Ministry of Education have a very strict guidelines on rating the school depending on what kind of skill sets or after-school programs the child is being exposed to. I think the school is doing the best they can. I really agree to that, because I know that every school management from all the levels that we work with, O-level, CBSE board, and I know that their prime motive is to make the students more exposed to the variety of activities or skills that they, because academics, they do agree that academics is important, but then also the skill set they can develop during that course. So they are bridging the gap, because that's the reason I am here. That's the reason Nikon Middleeast is present in all the schools, because they acknowledge that this program is beneficial. And that's the reason I could reach to the levels that we are creating Nikon rooms in the campus now, creating for content creation. So I believe that the schools are doing that, especially in Middleeast. India, we started working with now recently, and I know that the new national curriculum framework that the Ministry of India has laid out is actually the step towards recognizing skill develop-based learning for the child.
So just jumping back to the question, you're saying that white space in leadership development, but it's skills, bringing in more skills.
Absolutely.
And leading on, I want to jump to you, Benjamin, and ask if you think within the nursing profession and leadership development, if AI is one of the white spaces.
Actually, I have been involved into two projects involving AI, although it's not my expertise. Actually, I was able to do a project with Marco Neves from Portugal, and another one is with Anne Forbes, who works in Macquarie University in Australia. I'm not an expert on it, but it's very important for nurses like us to be able to adapt to what has been happening in this field. However, we need to draw a line between the development of this artificial intelligence that it will not replace. Of course, it will definitely not replace, because the human caring or the human touch of a human being, or the innate ability of the human being to radiate that energy that transcends to the internal being of another person, is a totally different experience that a nurse can provide.
I find this conversation so interesting, because when I grew up, any conversation about leadership was not about this. It wasn't about the inside-out leadership. It was about the outside leading forward kind of methodology. And I'm curious, Danny, within your work, if you deal with topics such as vulnerability and authenticity, and what does that actually mean in the world of conscious leadership?
That's a good question. So just to kind of backtrack a little bit on the schooling system, and most of my work is corporate, but sometimes I'm invited to organizations like educational organizations to talk or to manage conflict, etc. And I do agree that educational institutions have come a long way. In many parts of the world, education is shifting quite a bit. But three things they are missing right now, and those are fairly, I think, integral. Number one is self-esteem. You know, the word self-esteem comes from the Latin word estimare, and estimare means estimate. So your self-esteem is an estimate of your self-worth. And that's something it's a very important thing we are missing in our educational system today, which is why, we were talking about suicides and depression and all of that, because people lack self-esteem. So if schools could bring self-esteem. The second thing I would say is that a big part of our education system, and even corporate, I would kind of answer this question both ways, they help us to be, they don't teach us to be successful, they teach us to be safe. So if you look at the top 10 billionaires of the world, most of them are school dropouts. That says a lot to you, right? And so technically, we are in an assembly line that you come into a classroom and you keep quiet, the bell rings, somebody's lecturing to you. They have said this lecture for the past 20 years, so there is no emotion, no enthusiasm there. And then you follow like an assembly line because you want to get safe in life. But you've never seen a statue created for someone who's lived a very safe life. So technically, I think bringing that level of entrepreneurship is important. And the last thing I would say is, this is a little bit philosophical, I would say that the entire universe is all about energy. Everything is energy. We are not taught about energy in our school life. And that's a pity, because all energy is underpinned with the emotion of love. So if you love a relationship, the relationship grows. If you love your business grows. If you love finance, your money grows. If you love your health, you become more well-being. So I believe that the education system is kind of missing this very integral element of consciousness, underpinning it with love, so that when they love what they do, they will just blossom. You don't need to teach leadership, they'll become leaders.
Now I'm really curious about that book that you wrote. And now I understand why you use the word revolutionize, because that's what we need to do. We need to revolutionize the whole process around leadership. So at lunch today, I had such an interesting discussion with a gentleman, and I wonder if you guys would agree with what he said. And he said to me, Nicolene, nobody is authentic. So when you're talking about authentic leadership, and I see you're getting a smile on your face, he says it's impossible. Every conversation that you move into, everything that you do, there's a part of you that's not authentic. And I'm curious as to what the three of you think about that.
Sure.
I kind of disagree with that. We all are authentic in our perception. I think at least we are true to ourselves. We don't, I'm sure we are putting out a show for the outer world, but then I'm a photographer. I'm a professional photographer. That's what I do for a living. And I know that as I've progressed in my photography journey, I am just getting authentic, more self-assured. My self-esteem as a person is on a paramount for that, because that's what my photography has given me, that I have a voice, it's unique. My pictures are supposed to be out in the open. I believe as a photographer that it's something that if I don't capture that, you will not see it out in the digital world. We are living in a digital world. That's something I believe that they are hobbies or a passion that you need to pursue, that you develop that authentic behavior, or that you fine-tune that in your DNA for that matter. You need to have a purpose. Once you have a purpose, you're authentic. That's what I believe.
Awesome.
For me, I believe in authentic leadership, but for me, it's more of a journey, because growing from, as I told you a while ago, in that space of, having experienced trauma, there's always that space that you are always feeling that you are not good enough, like growing up. But for me to be able to kind of reflect and really overcame all those challenges, including overcoming the challenge of, of myself, is actually one of the greatest achievements that I had. That's probably the reason when I am working with students, even in the bachelor's or graduate level, there are a lot of activities that we do, even in the graduate level. Like, for the students to really open up, you really have to structure activities that will open up the students to be more open and vulnerable. Like, for example, who is your best of the best? And then asking key questions related to that. What is your inner core essence? But of course, it will be guided by important key questions in a small group for each of the students to really come out of their shell. And really listening to those stories, a part of that, of my journey of authenticity, is really getting to, meet a lot of people who are, how can I say it, who are graciously showering me with gratitude from their experiences.
Is it safe to say that as you travel through a journey of leadership and a journey of life, that maybe from day to day, moment to moment, you're also traveling on a journey of authenticity, and that sometimes you might be 10% authentic, and sometimes you self-awareness, and you grow a little bit more and you get some more skills. So authenticity, so there's kind of like truth, but also a disagreement within the gentleman's words, I think. And I'm curious what you think about that, Danny.
So for authenticity, I think it's something very important that Arya said. You need to find your purpose. The reason why people they come across or it's perceived as unauthentic could be they're seeking validation from society, or they're just not clear about themselves. But when you really discover your purpose in life, and everyone has a life purpose, and like all of us do, and when we are clear about that, when we are clear about our own identity, which is beyond our passport, which is beyond our cultural heritage and all of those things, when you get clear on your identity, your authenticity starts to come through. The other important part about authenticity is you've got to let go of all the BS that we are carrying around, like emotional baggage. You know, we talk about, resentment, guilt, regret, jealousy, envy, fear, doubt. Authenticity is not about achieving something. Authenticity is about letting go of things. So when you start letting go of all that, your authenticity starts shining through. You don't become authentic, it just shines through you. I think that's a very important distinction to make when you talk about authenticity.
Oh, I absolutely love that. It's about letting go and then growing in the process. So this morning at 3 a.m., I woke up. And I just hate it when this happens. And a question came to mind. And I had this question, and I was wondering, in all of your experiences and in your positions, we have leadership now, and it's developing because there's a need. And then I was wondering, what are the root causes? Like, what are the systemic roots of why something like leadership is developing and coming to the forefront? Where does this stem from? I don't think the cavemen sat down and spoke about leadership and said, well, I think we need more authentic leaders. What are the roots that are stemming from this?
Well, so basically, even during the caveman time, they would look at someone to lead them. So that notion, that subconscious thing that tell me what to do has been there for millenniums.
But are you saying that leadership is still that tell me what to do?
No, I'm saying in certain paradigms that used to be like, even today in organizations, they look at leaders to tell them what to do. It's true, they do. In many organizations
yes,
it is. The leader knows best and they wait till somebody says. That's what happens in classrooms. That's how they're conditioned.
What about parents that tell their kids, everybody's a winner, everybody's a leader?
Absolutely. So,
I believe in that also.
Go ahead, sorry.
I believe in that because that's roving leadership. It's like when you, in a particular situation, a person can emerge to become a leader in that situation. And I want to build up with that because really I cannot, the energy of Danny is so strong. I mean, everything is resonating with me. So, and actually what I like about what Danny said a while ago is, because he mentioned about conscious leadership a while ago. I do not know if I'm out of topic or what. It's actually becoming more intentional, should I say intentional, with what you do. And he also mentioned the importance of finding your purpose or your true voice. If you are in that space, even if you face a lot of people in front of you, you will never be, how can I say it? It's free. You feel free. Freer, should I say.
I like that. Arya?
I think the reason we are working towards creating better leaders in schools or colleges for that matter is because I think the focus now have come to the students that they are future leaders. We have to prepare them for the world. We have to prepare them for their corporate or personal world. And a word like leader, are you a leader, really affects children's perception on how do they take on their journey of being what they are. I think it's something that we have to work on because they are definitely the titles that we need to make it very normal for a child to acquire, because a question like, are you a leader, there are very few hands you will raise up in a class. That's something we are working to break that no, you are the leader of your life. You have to make sure that a child or a teenager understand that this is not a personality trait, more of a journey that you have to transit towards being a better leader. When you talk about leadership, there are a lot of qualities that come into play. The soft skills, the interpersonal skills of becoming a leader. It's about understanding others. It's about creative and innovative thinking out of the box. And that's something we need to normalize when we throw a word as leader towards the children.
I really like that. It's like breaking down those stereotypes. So in closing, looking at the clock, 30 seconds each, I want to ask you, what is your leadership wild card? What is that leadership strength that you have that's like your go-to wild card as a leader?
In my case, I will answer it from my experience. It's actually problem solving, command, developer, ideation, and strategic thinking. So if you will ask me about my strengths as a leader, I think that these are the 5 strengths that I have. But I also want to add, in terms of our topic, which is really developing visionaries, especially in educational institutions. Although I'm working in a corporate world, it really depends on the leader, on how are you going to foster a different environment for your colleagues. We are working in an environment that is in a caring framework. All the people at work, they have decision-making ability. We sit down in one room, and all the team leaders have the ability to raise their voice and give their opinion. And it's an environment where culture also is being celebrated. Although, honestly speaking, I'm working in Saudi Arabia. I'm working in a multicultural environment. And even my colleagues really like having, like a day for Indians or for Egyptians, for example, or for Sudanese colleagues.
So the cultural awareness.
That's fun. Yes.
I think another part
on the leader.
of leadership is being aware of time. So I'm gonna just, and valuing time and other people's time and also our own expertise. And I'm gonna go Danny and then Arya, if you would close with your wild card. Thank you for that, Benjamin.
Sorry, the wild card.
Yes.
Okay. So I was just thinking while you were speaking, so you gave me some good time to think about it. Yeah, I think in terms of wild card, I would say, I'm not sure if I have a wild card, but what I would say is, I think when you make a conscious effort to raise and elevate your consciousness, I know I use this word quite a lot because it's so true, you tend to understand people better, you're less judgmental, you make better decisions and better choices in life, and you just start connecting with people at a more heart and a more deeper level. So I'm not sure if that's my wild card, but I feel that when you make this kind of conscious effort to, self-realize, life becomes a bit more easier. That's what we teach. In life, you can actually have it all. It's what we teach, the concept of having it all, having the best relationship, finances, a good job, health and well-being, and having a connection that really kind of, you have one life, and this is not a dress rehearsal.
Yeah, I think that's a good wild card to have. And then in closing, Arya, for you.
So my wild card for my leadership, I believe that is, first is to I found my purpose, and I drive that purpose with passion, compassion. And the last thing that I know that this world doesn't owe me anything. The world doesn't revolve around me. I have come here with a purpose. I need to fulfill that. I need to keep working to the right cause, and be positive all the time. And that's what I believe is my wild card for anything that I have achieved in life.
I think this is already a beautiful leadership course if we had to put all of these wild cards together, from self-awareness, purpose, problem-solving, and having consciousness. So thank you so much for sharing this panel with us today, and a shout out to all the leaders that showed up and that are still here today. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you, panelists. Fantastic. Well, I hate running anyone off the stage here, and you guys have been really engaging, so thank you, panelists, for a great discussion. I'm opening it up for a question, so come on up, first hand up, come on up to the mic, introduce yourself, get involved. You know, I know that sometimes when we run out of time, people may feel like they're feeling rushed, but I want to give you the opportunity to get up to the mic, and I invite you to ask your question.
Hi, I'm Shalini, and so I've really enjoyed this amazing panel with the topic which actually resonates with everybody. However, it just leaves you with one very strange question, that if there's so much done towards leadership at a grassroots level, which is academia, and then going forward, why don't we have good leaders leading us in the world today? So where is that coming from? Because and I'm not politicizing this conversation at all, but wherever you look in the world today, people leading it are actually really not standing up to any of the virtues that we've discussed in this room. Neither are they self-aware, they don't have empathy, and they're largely just sort of polarizing the world with their own ideologies. So it is just more from a comment perspective from you, that where we're building up leadership skills and where we're really reflecting as symbolic references to who the world leaders are. Is there any connection there?
Yeah, I'm wondering, Benjamin, it deals a lot with the work that you're also doing Danny, in consciousness. I think what I'm hearing from you, you're asking, why are we having leaders that may not have these skills? Are there any of you that would like to answer that?
I think if you are mixing political leaders with the leaders, then it's a separate debate altogether. But then I believe they are right leaders who are still leading the right causes. And I see that. I still believe the world is still a better place. We still have amazing leaders out there doing their purpose at the best that they can. And I think, yeah, we do, because see, there's always going to be a good and a bad element in the society. We just have to find the right balance. And what I see is, how do we look at it? I always see good leaders in the right places. I have one of the best leaders, I would say, in my company. Our MD Narendra San is one of the best, I would say, such a charismatic leader that we have come and achieved what we have done under his leadership. So I think it's more about perception. What do you look at it?
I think you could be my marketing head to increase my business. I think it's a very, very good question, very good question. One of the reasons why you don't see that is because people haven't made it a priority, unfortunately. However, 2020 to 2030 is the decade of awakening, and you're seeing that. You know, 5 years ago in these conferences, people would not talk about purpose and passion and consciousness. We are doing it now because there's an awakening happening. And I do see pockets in leadership, whether it's corporate, entrepreneurship, or even some pockets in governments where people are trying to embody. But there is the other population, which is so big, which has never made it a priority. So that paradigm shift, that transformation is taking a bit longer. But if you ever come across this, please send them my way.
I just want to add to that. Your question is talking about grassroots. So I think
I was actually looking at world leaders, actually, in terms of politicians who are really making a difference, because that's the end level of where leadership is going. And I was actually questioning that.
But if you backtrack from that, right?
If you backtrack,
a lot is being done at grassroots now.
And I feel like you very rightly said, 10 years from now, that's the time when you'll actually see what the good has done for a larger good.
During this decade.
Yes.
2023 is a very important year, I think. 2023, 2025, you will see a quantum leap in leadership change, also in technological advancement, because technological advancement is actually pushing better leadership. Mm-hmm. We keep talking about why AI is bad, but when AI comes in, it'll actually push you to become better leaders. That's an aspect we are not looking at. I think it will. So yeah, the majority, there's still that big effect that needs to come, which is why you're not seeing it. Mm-hmm. In certain areas that has changed. It is moving in the right direction, but change, like, I don't like the word change, but kind of transformation or up-leveling takes a little bit more time. But you got to make it a priority. That's really important. Anything in life you make a priority changes.
Yeah.
It gets better.
Absolutely.
But sometimes
That's right.
organizations don't make it a priority.
Benjamin, will you wrap up this conversation for us?
Actually,
Thank
I
you
will-
so much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you for the question.
It will be related to her statement. I think I actually believe also with what Danny said a while ago. Like, in general, we cannot change the entire world. But at least we can make a difference in our space, in our fields, in the areas where we can spread that impact. I'm an advocate. Now I have a project advocating for nurse advocates. 2 of them is actually one of them. They are with me. An advocate for healthy workplace environments and an advocate for victims of substance abuse. So I feel like in my own space, I can make a significant difference. That's it.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Great.
you.
Give him a round of applause. Great panel. Fantastic.